According to South Korean Foreign Ministry, Special Representative Mr. Stephen Biegun is going to visit South Korea on December 15th for 3 days. And I would like to ask you, what would be the breakthrough that he might be able to bring about through his visit?
I'm pessimistic. I have great admiration for Steve Biegun personally. I think he's admirable and he's a very, very clever man. But I think, frankly, that the current situation will take much more than the efforts of one man to unblock it. And I fear in particular that the North Koreans have now all but decided that the diplomatic path that they hoped would give them what they wanted with the summits with President Trump, that path is now blocked and they have to take a new measure.
You just mentioned a new measure. So North Korean Foreign Ministry spokesperson criticized the U.S. on December 12th for convening the UNSC discussion the day before. And I would like to ask you, what would be the new path North Korea is considering? They are going to hold the party plenum late December. So what would be the agenda for that?
Well, I don't know what the agenda will be. What they are planning to do, of course, this is a question that is preoccupying a lot of people right now. And of course, nobody really knows. The North Koreans have dropped a few hints. The test a few days ago at Sohae suggests that possibly they are planning a long-range missile launch.
Do you have any suggestions for the South Korean, U.S. and North Korean government or negotiators to keep the window of diplomacy open?
In the case of North and South Korea, I think that the window has already slammed shut. I think the North Koreans have made clear that they are simply not interested in further dialogue with President Moon Jae-in. In the case of the US, the situation is frankly very bad. The North Koreans, as I've just said, seem to be moving away from dialogue and diplomacy to revert perhaps to some of the confrontation that we saw in earlier years, and particularly in 2017.
So if North Korea conducts any ICBM or nuclear testing as their new path, is there anything that China and Russia can do?
What can China and Russia do? China in particular has enormous power over North Korea. Something over 90% of all of North Korea's trade is with China, and China could, if it wished, apply immense and possibly even lethal economic power against North Korea. But it's very doubtful that China has any intention of doing any such thing. Why should it? China knows that the missile launches are not really aimed against it. Why should China put itself out to protect the United States?
And in your contribution to a South Korean newspaper, you described the similarities between North Korea and Sudan. And I'm wondering if you could briefly explain in what way the two regimes look alike.
There are both big similarities and big differences. In both pre-revolution Sudan and in modern North Korea, we are dealing with fiercely repressive, fiercely nationalistic societies with complex arrangements to prevent the free flow of information. More effective perhaps in North Korea than in Sudan, but they existed in both cases. The differences, of course, are that the elite of Sudan always were much better connected with the outside world than the elite of North Korea. And it's an African country with a slightly different culture. But I think the striking similarities are that although many observers believed that the Sudanese regime was well entrenched and that the President Omar al-Bashir, was quite safe from any kind of real threat, nevertheless, the regime fell. And it fell because of mass anger at the corruption and at the economic shortages that the regime had presided over. Now, I don't know whether that will happen in North Korea, but in my article, I was trying to remind my readers that we tend to think that history goes along straight lines, that processes simply continue to evolve. We need to remind ourselves from time to time that sometimes there are sharp discontinuities, that things just change suddenly and unpredictably. It's happened in Sudan, it might happen elsewhere.